another thing you had mentioned was gumbo. I ate gumbo when I was 27. I had been up for 52 hours. I was dead beat. We met these guys that were really, really welcoming. We weren't like out partying. We were working, and they were like, "Hey, it was the weirdest situation ever. Backwoods of Florida, and what the one guy's like, "Is that gumbo?" I was like, "What? That looks like a pot of shit, dude. What are you talking about?" Like, do not ask them if we could have some. And then we ate it, and I haven't had any since, but it was the best thing in the world. And like, yeah, I was starving, hungry, but like, they gave us something to leave with, and we were up for probably another 10 hours after until we got back to the shop, and it was amazing the next morning too. What can you explain to me what the hell is in gumbo? Because like I know what it is. I've never cooked it, and I've never even looked it up. Honestly, I probably should, but I would.
I will preface this with saying I am by no means a Louisiana boy.
Yeah.
This is not probably a proper representation of gumbo. But gumbo usually you have some sort of seafood, shrimp,
Yeah.
Fish, whatever the case may be, that you're going to put in there, sausage, and then sorry, excuse me. It also, the key to a gumbo, and what anybody who has made gumbo will tell you, is the key to the gumbo is the roux.
What is
so
roux?
Butter and flour. It's a thickening agent. The difference is usually when you're thickening with a roux, you get a blonde roux. Sometimes you get something a little bit darker, and that's basically made by consistently stirring the flour as it cooks in that butter, right? And the darker you go, the more flavor you're going to get, right? Flour, if you ever seen a recipe where it's like, add the flour to the butter in the pan until you start to smell something nutty, right? It's called the Maillard effect. It's a scientific term. It's the difference between, you ever smelled bread dough?
No.
Like dough of any kind?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, yeah. Yeah. More for tortillas though than bread, if that makes sense.
Pleasant smell, right?
Yeah.
Imagine walking into a bakery and you smell fresh baked bread. That smell brings people from all over. Mm-hmm. They're like, what is that smell? It's the smell of cookies. It's the smell of pancakes and muffins and fresh baked bread. That's all the Maillard effect, and that is what is the fats inside of that cooking, whether it's oil, whether it's eggs, whether it's butter, is toasting the proteins inside of that flour, and the resulting reaction is that smell. The Maillard effect is caramelizing the proteins, and that's why baked bread is a different color than dough, right? So smell is the Maillard effect in a nutshell, right? So when you're making a gumbo, you add your flour to your butter, and you have to baby that roux, and you cook it, and you cook it, and you cook it, and you cook it, and you cook it until it is dark. It's not burned, because if it's burned, it ruins everything, right? It's just this dark, deep mahogany brown, and that's where you start, right? It all starts with that roux, right? And then you have, like I said, all your proteins and your veggies and all that stuff, and you put all that in there and you cook it down. You add stock to it, and everything cooks down. And as it cooks, that roux is what thickens that gumbo into just a warm hug in a bowl, right? That thick, just kind of wonderful, almost like everything gravy, right? That really is what holds all the gumbo together on top of that rice. And then you just have these wonderful tidbits of ingredients floating around in there. And when it's done right, man, I'll tell you, it's second to none. Anything that takes that much development and flavor development, when it's done right, it really is. And it's French cooking, I feel like, is what it really boils down to, right? Like, gumbo is derived, it's French Cajun, right? They know how to braise and reduce and all of these things that take time and really just take your flavor from here and put it into this.
Yeah.
Bring it down into like this tiny little thing that's huge on flavor, right? It's an explosion, right? And it's just, it takes time and it takes love. People say, this takes love. What it means is like it takes time, and you have to turn your back for 10 seconds too long. You get to start it all over again.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, when somebody who's done it and knows how to do it does it, oof, it's wonderful.
I'm almost scared to try another gumbo because I mean these dudes. When I talk about backwoods, we are in the backwoods of Florida, like straight up center of the state. Like these dudes logged all their own wood and all this crap. It was honestly like I was in an episode of Swamp People. That's what it felt like. Those two old dudes that I think they both passed away by now. I know the one passed away while they were still doing the show. It literally, I couldn't understand half the words these guys were saying. If we weren't with this other guy who literally was from Louisiana, I don't think we would have been able to understand them because I understood maybe every 10 words that they said. And it was at the end of the sentence. And I'm almost afraid to try another one, but that's why I asked about it because like I always hear people talk about really good gumbo and I'm so intrigued to go try another one. But I would love to learn how to cook that because I enjoy true challenges, and that sounds like it is a culinary mind F, because especially for someone untrained like me. So that's one thing I personally want to dive into is to learn how to make a good gumbo because up here you're never going to find it, I don't think.
I mean, man, listen, you want it, and I'm not knocking Florida. I grew up in Florida. Seafood's great there.
Yeah.
Really want to get into the true heart of that style of cooking. You need to get to Louisiana, Mississippi.
Yeah.
Kind of back there. Because that's where it's all it's spread its way out, but that to get to the real deal, you go there. And there's everywhere's kind of got their own thing, right? Mm-hmm. Which I love. South Carolina, you got that low country style of cooking, right? You got like the shrimp and grits, and you got the fried fish, and they kind of do their own thing down there. And Alabama's got their thing. Like barbecue's a big. I ran a barbecue restaurant for a while.
Yeah.
It was so individualistic based on where it is, right? Different parts of different states will have completely different barbecue. The Carolinas, Alabama, Florida, Texas, right? Everybody's kind of got their own thing. And it's pretty awesome, right? Like, that's not barbecue, this is barbecue. This is, and people go round and round. Oh, I only use lump charcoal. I only use hardwood. I only use pellets, blah, and it's so unique to kind of where you're at. And I just love it, and the, getting back to the internet and social media, has really given people a way to learn, mm-hmm. right? Techniques from different places, and I think everything's kind of being not watered down necessarily as much as like it's just spreading its way out. Even here in Ohio, we're getting a lot of stuff from Southern cuisine. But then we see stuff from like the delis up in the Northeast, and we see stuff coming from the West Coast, and we see stuff coming from Seattle, and it's everything is gotten a lot more accessible.
Yeah.
As far as techniques go, sometimes you can't get the same ingredients, but it's really just not to say that you won't be able to find gumbo in Chicago. It's Chicago. Y'all got some amazing restaurants.
Yeah.
There's some that are on my bucket list that are in Chicago that I have to get to before I die.
What are those, really quick? That's a good one.
What's that?
What are some of the restaurants that you want to try out here?
What is the name? So there's a chef, Grant Ashatz. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He has a restaurant out in Chicago called Alenia. And it's Michelin recognized. The guy is a savant. Mm. he's muttered in the same breath as Thomas Keller, as the French Laundry, and the guy's just he's incredible. So he had cancer of the throat and the tongue, and they told him he was going to lose his sense of taste, and he got in a real dark spot. And then I want to say it was the University of Chicago, I believe. Got a hold of him, was like, listen, what if instead of it's going to be 90% you're going to lose your taste, what if we tell you that 70% says you're going to get it back? He's like, sign me up right now. So they did the operation, and they did all the radiation and all the stuff, and they got everything out, and he lost his sense of taste. This guy's running a restaurant that's supposed to be the next big restaurant, and he is not able to taste his food. So again, when I came back to say it takes a team, he's literally drawing stuff on the whiteboard and having to verbally express what this is supposed to taste like and hope that his team understands what he's saying. And so, and if you ever want to watch this, it's on Netflix. It's called Chef's Table. There's a few different ones, but it's just the original, and I believe he's in the first season.
Okay.
He talks about drinking coffee and just dumping sugar in it and just hoping he's going to taste something. And he says one day he puts all this sugar in his coffee and he stirs it up and he takes a drink of it and he's like, God damn, that's sweet. And he realizes he's starting to get his sense of taste back. Now, you develop your initial sense of taste as a child.
Yeah.
Where you have no understanding of what you're tasting other than the fact that you like it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine as an adult, and not only just an adult, but someone who is Michelin recognized, you get to develop your sense of taste again. As a fully functioning conscious adult, you can learn how things interact and how they build and how your building blocks. So this guy gets to go through all of it again. And it's just like, dude, the guy's story is incredible. His team is incredible. They're doing all sorts of wild stuff, and I haven't even seen any of the new stuff they're doing.
Yeah.
He's one of those people that I said, like, they turn the industry on their ear, right? He just does stuff because he can, because he's figured it out. He's putting stuff in test tubes and putting them on the centrifuge, and flavors from the ingredients, because he wants all of the flavor without the color, without the texture, without this and that. And then he's taking the flavor and he's putting it into something else. So that something that looks like a tomato tastes like a strawberry, but something that looks like a strawberry tastes like a tomato. And it's just like, it's just a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just like, there's those of us that cook and can do it well. And then there's those of us that create and do it well. And then there's these guys.
Yeah.
Just nothing more than someone to look up to. Someone who I would just be like, man, can I get an hour of your time? Let me buy you a coffee and pick your brain.
Yeah.
Because there's no way I wouldn't come out of that conversation with just a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why I love doing this podcast, because, I mean, you could find someone who I think 90% of the population would just look over because people are so arrogant and so self-centered and they don't see the beauty behind every individual. And this person's easy to see the beauty behind. He's accoladed and everything like that. But for me, this has only been emboldened by my faith and my religion, but everybody has a purpose. Everybody can give you so much. Like I've learned so much just from sitting here and talking with you already. Like I love it. And that's what makes me love every podcast I do, because there's so much that can be lost on a person because, someone may say, oh, well, we'll talk about this in a second, how you've transitioned out of that industry because of your life circumstances, but you can just see the passion behind it with you. And it, honestly, it's not, what's the word? Not rewarding. It's emboldening to me, because it's like, man, I'm sitting here in my head trying to think, like, how can I help this guy maybe still do some culinary stuff that, because you have such a drive behind it, and so like it just goes to show everybody that no matter who you are, what you're doing, if you have a passion for something, you definitely need to stick with it in any way you can, and you stick with it by sharing it with your family now. And I think there's no better way than to stick with it. Have you ever thought about doing like some cooking on like a podcast or something like that with like different things? I know that's probably a little saturated, but it might give you the chance.
Had multiple people who have talked to me about it. And it's kind of crazy, like my girlfriend surprised me the other day. She said, "We're going to do a surprise date. I need you to get out of work like an hour early." I'm like, "All right, cool. So I'm like, "What are we doing?" She's like, "Oh, it's a surprise." So I get off and I'm like, "All right, what are we doing?" She's like, "Oh, we're going up to the community college and taking a class on how to make French macarons."
That's
Right, dude. I love French macarons. I'm that guy. I'll pay $4 a pop for them because right. And it's one of those where I never tried to make them because I let everybody who makes them tell me that they're difficult to make, and they are, right? But I got, it was myself, my girlfriend, and like 8 other people. We got a chef to ourselves for 3 hours, and we made a couple batches of macarons. And dude, it was a blast, right? It was so much fun. And so I'm sitting there, right? And now, having worked in kitchens, I'm grabbing dishes, I'm running into the dish pit, I'm cleaning, like, my station's super clean. Everybody else has got flour everywhere. Like, one of those, like, and the chef is like, "Why is your station so clean?" I'm like, "It has to be." He's like, "Oh, okay, where'd you work?" You know, talking, and, I was telling him what I used to do, and all this and that and the other thing. And he's like, "You ever thought about coming up here and doing some classes?" He's like, "It pays well." And I'm like, "No, like, I really haven't." He's like, "You should." And then the lady that was helping out, she's like, "You really should." She's like, "Why not? Like, I'll talk to my boss for you. I'll give him." And so she gave her boss my number, and he called me. We've talked a couple times, but I just haven't bitten the bullet to go ahead and do it.
You should.
But it's one of those, like, man, it's fun. And I know you teach as a leader in the kitchen, right? You're a teacher. I guess it's different. I don't know. There's
I
something about service.
no,
Um,
I get that.
it,
I do 100% because there's a difference between teaching it and actually doing it yourself.
right.
There's that reward system kind of built into doing it yourself. And there is a reward system from teaching it, but it's not the same reward system. It's a
Right.
different, you know what I mean? When you make something with your hands, I'm very like that. Like when I do something with my hands, it's the biggest stimulation to me for some
Oh,
reason. Like working on a car, building houses, building something, building a piece of furniture, fixing something. There's something with that just bam hits me like nothing else in the world hits me. It gives you such a great feeling. Whereas teaching it gives you great frustration because you see all the fuck ups and you're like, wait, am I not explaining it right? Or you know what I mean? And so once the person finishes it and you see them finish it, you're like, yeah, great job. But it's a different reward system. And I've never really even thought about it in this perspective, but it's a good point. And that's why I'm wondering, like, what I'm kind of thinking about here in my head, and this is kind of me just spitballing, is if you'd be interested, I mean, I would love to learn how to cook some things, and maybe we do something like this once a month or once every other month. That way, it gives you a chance to kind of dabble in it. We can put it out there. It can give you somewhere kind of like a starting leg, and to where if you ever wanted, you could do something on your own with it too. I mean, it's just something to think about. And obviously time is a constraint and everything, but I know I would love that. I would love to watch it, and with how passionate you are, that's what makes the biggest difference. You're trying new things. You want to see how they develop and stuff like that. And so I think that would be a good outlet for you just in general because you get to grip more onto it. You get to try new things, but that can be discussed more later on. It was just something that was jumping around in my brain that I know I would. There's a difference between watching someone like doing like you get these little segments on the news station where someone's cooking and like you can tell they like it, but it's so rushed. It's not laid back. And I would rather watch someone sit there and talk and maybe give a little bit of information on why they're cooking it or what brought them to that because that passion behind it is just as strong to me as the final dish because it adds to it.
If you ever want to see, Netflix has a show called Dinner Time with David Chang. David Chang's another extremely talented chef, and just a hell of a funny guy. And he'll cook dinner with two people, and they'll do a podcast while he's cooking, and they're just shooting the shit and kind of talking smack and going over just random things as they're cooking, and it's really cool. You should give that a watch for sure.
Oh, I will. That sounds good. That's kind of like what I'm thinking about too in my head. But okay, so one thing that I truly enjoy is history, and so cuisine obviously goes back. We've needed it since the beginning of time. Is there anything that from, I don't even want to say antiquity, but just history, that's a dish that maybe you came across that like it's almost unprepared now, no one makes it, but it's something that you came across that's kind of odd that was good? It's a weird question, I know, and badly put. So,
All right, well, so my stepmom's mom, we used to do Thanksgiving over at her house. It was very Italian, right?
yeah.
It wasn't traditional. We would do stuffed shells and stuff like that. Man, she used to make this dessert dish, and I don't know what it was about it, but golly, man, I loved it to pieces. And it was made with Jello, right?
Okay.
Like so many of these old recipes made with Jello, and it had like Marzetti's, some sort of dressing in it, and it was like fresh strawberries and Marzetti's and strawberry Jello, and I don't know if I was the only person that ever really liked it, but anytime I've talked to my friends about it, they're just like, "That sounds horrible." And I'll tell you what, I love it. I really do love a lot of the kind of late '60s quick dinner meals. Grandma used to make like fried hamburgers in the pan,
Yeah.
like instant mashed potatoes, and then she'd make like a gravy out of the drippings and some like steamed veggies, like real basic, like you'd see it on like an orange plate somewhere. It's served with like a glass like milk.
Yeah.
Just very like traditional kind of quick, easy '60s meals. And I really feel like there's a lot to them. But they're slept on a lot because there's not much as far as technique or ingredients that are honestly really healthy. You're making great beef drippings, but I just think they're delicious.
Yeah.
That it's comfort food in general, right? It's the reason it's called comfort food, right? It's something you grew up with. It's like, yeah, we used to eat this maybe once every couple of weeks or once a week that grandma used to make. It's bread and butter and hamburger helper. Like
Hamburger helper. Ooh.
don't realize what they are when you're eating them, right? Like we grew up, we didn't have a bunch of money, right? So we had hamburger helper quite a lot. We used a lot of ground turkey because it was cheaper, and it's like it's not something I'm like, God, like, man, that was the best, right? But when I have it, and I'm just like, man, I want hamburger helper, right? And they throw together a pan of hamburger helper, and it's just like, this is by far not the best thing I've ever had, but I'll be damned if it ain't great,
Dude, you just saying hamburger helper right now is making me think of like the lasagna hamburger helper, and dude, we used to eat it all the time. I mean, I loved hamburger helper, and I still do. I haven't eaten it in a long time. It's probably been like 5 years, but it'll probably come up in the menu now again because it's quick, it's simple. Granted, uh, more processed than I would prefer, but everything is nowadays. But I try to stick a lot to like meat and vegetables. But anyways, hamburger helper, it's good. I really, that was one thing that I haven't thought about in years that I think will make it back into the rotation in our family's cooking now.
like once in a while, and I talked to my girlfriend. We were talking about doing toddler Tuesdays, where it's like wake up in the morning, have like a single scrambled egg and some fruit and a piece of toast.
Mm-hmm.
Have some recess. Just take a sick day,
Yeah.
and just right, like we're gonna take a nap in the middle of the day. We're gonna have arts and You know, for dinner we're gonna have like Kraft Mac and hot dogs. You know, like it doesn't need to always be gourmet.
Yeah.
So simple. You know, you make your own memories, right? Like I taught my kids. So when I used to go to my grandma's, Grandma, I want a snack. She'd take like softened butter and spread it on a saltine.
Yeah.
It's like, you want me to eat a saltine with butter on it? Like, yeah, snack. All the kids now are like, can we have saltines and butter? Like, hell yeah, like let's do. And it's just my grandma's gone, right? But when they ask me that, oh, dude, if it does, it's just a heartstring. I'm like, hell yeah, like it's just a little part of grandma that whether they know it's grandma or not, um, it's there, and I just feel like it's so cool.
Mm-hmm. It really is. No, those little memory cues, like you said, that are hooked to the things, they mean a lot, and your kids are gonna remember that. You know what I mean? And hopefully they get to share it with their children going forward, because that's really what it's about. I mean, it's about giving them the tools and the memories that they need in order to build themselves a little bit better of a situation than that. I'm not saying anyone's kids are in bad situations, but in my eyes, if you give your kids more than what you were given, but with the proper structure and teachings around it, you succeeded. Because I mean, it's hard too, because
Yep.
that's the way I kind of try to. And I had a decent life growing up. There was a lot of us. My brothers were in a lot of trouble, so that made money kind of scarce. Um, but there's still some things, like there was this thing my mom used to make every Christmas. It was called pizza. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's like it's a Swedish roll, and it can be made in many ways. I've yet to find her. We lost her recipe book when she passed away, which is like devastating to me. I've literally tried to search to different relatives, and I think I found one, but then she was having health troubles, and so like it just kind of trailed off to where I wasn't able to find it. But it's what I can remember. It's dates, walnuts, honey, chocolate, and raisins. Maybe not raisins because it's dates. It's dates, not raisins. Um, but and then what you do is you take a dough, you spread it out over a whole entire table. Like if you could see my table here, it's probably like the size of this, and you spread it to the dough is like translucent. And so then you take that sauce of everything I said, you cook it in a pot or whatever, you do whatever you need to. I don't really remember that part too well. And then you take it and you spread it out over the whole thing, and then you roll it all up and you bake it. It is I'm talking, my mom would make like 8 of them, and she would ship them all over the country to her friends who she either worked with or, grew up with or whatnot. And, we'd always she would always make a couple extra because she knew that we would go in the freezer and freaking thaw it out and eat a bunch, but it was the best thing in the world. And it sucked doing because it was an all day fiasco. I mean, we would start at 7 in the morning and wouldn't finish till 8 o'clock at night. And so it was this huge ordeal around it. But if I'm gonna figure out how to make it. I'm just gonna start making it and start tweaking it as I do it, because I'm never gonna find the exact recipe. And like I said, you can look it up. It's like POTICIA, and there's all types of variations of it. But that memory is so strong, and it will never leave me. And I need to do something like that with my children, because I don't cook enough with them, and I don't have any of those like little things that I do every time around a certain time of year. And that's why I was so interested in the pumpkin French toast, because that is something that we do delve into a little bit, is like the pumpkin-y stuff and the harvest time food, and so that's something I need to get better with as a parent, because food does bring people together.
Absolutely.
And
My
so
kids,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
all time, quick, easy, cider. And just hot cider in the crock pot.
Yeah.
Ask me for it all year. Are you gonna make hot cider this year? Are you gonna make hot? And man, I'll tell you, it's so simple.
Yeah.
Right. Little things, man. I love holiday times for that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like mom's gonna make deviled eggs again. Like hell yeah.
There's little markers that help kind of get us through the year. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes this time of year can be harder for people because it's like go 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 go. We have all the holidays back to back to back. It takes up a lot of time, but that little bit of light, like you said, deviled eggs or hot cider, or like for me it was pizza when I was growing up. But And now it's all the pumpkin-y stuff. So they just make that time of year just a little bit more exciting to go into instead of more dreadful as they can be sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, Now I know you recently I don't know how I say recently because it's recent to me that I just uh was made aware of it, but you've had to unfortunately transition away from the service industry due to some life circumstances. And so, do you want to talk about that a little bit and explain maybe the hardships that came with it? And just obviously, you've told us plenty how you still stick with it. I just want people to realize, like, hey, even if you are passionate about something and you love something, there are going to be times in life where you have to choose between what you love and what is needed. And I think, like I said, you made the right decision with it. But talking about that, I think, could help people who might be going through a similar situation who have to choose between their passion and providing.
Yeah. So, got a divorce from my wife. Um, was still spent, close to 20 years in the industry, one way or the other.
Yeah.
It's definitely a passion. It's definitely something that I love to do. But anybody who's been in the service industry knows the hours are pretty much unforgivable. You are not home at night unless you're working at some place that only does breakfast
Yeah.
or lunch. And especially as someone who's managing and running things, those hours are brutal. And the industry, just in general, really does demand a lot of your time. Um, but I got two young ones at the house, and as much as I love to cook, and as much passion as I found, and as much fulfillment as I got from that, um, I can't do that and still have time to be dad. And what it all boils down to at the end of the day is, like, I chose to be a chef, and I chose to be a dad, and there's only one of those that I get to move away from. Right? They're the most important thing at the end of the day. They're the reason I worked from becoming a prep cook and a pantry, coming in executive chef and a business owner, was to better my career so that I could better their quality of life. And that always came at the expense of my quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do that. And I never had any qualms about it. And man, there'd be days where you come home and I just want to bitch and because just did 16 hours. It's crazy and the kids are screaming and it's part of being a dad. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to pick my career over my kids. And so I had to move away from it, and it's been difficult, but there's a lot of difference between following your passion and doing something that you love for someone else and doing it for yourself as well. And I really found that to be the case, when I spent so much time, and I lived in Montana for a little while, and I there and I'd go out and it was a small town, right? The people who knew me from work would call me Sam. Anyone who knew me outside would call me Chef, right? So I'm walking through Walmart and hey Chef, hey Chef, it becomes your identity, whether you want it to or not. It's inadvertently becomes who you are and who you see yourself as well, right? Unless you have really taken time to take that step back, and separate work and home, which is hard to do sometimes. Everybody struggles with that. Having a bad day at home and then going into work. It's difficult to pull yourself out of the mindset that you were just at and put yourself into the mindset of work mode. I have to work now. I can't be upset about what's at home. Well, I have to be dad now. I can't be stressed about what I have to do tomorrow at work.
Yeah.
But when you're cooking for other people, when you're at a restaurant that isn't yours, right, your creativity is throttled to an extent, right? Unless you've been given the reins. And even as the executive chef, the business owner I'm sorry about that, still has the final say about what they want to see on the menu. Right? And that's how it always goes most of the time. So your creativity is only going so far. And I really found that now since I've taken a step back and out of the restaurants and really started to focus on a job where I can still get my monetary fulfillment and pay my bills,
Mm.
and still allow myself to have the time that I need to spend with my kids and with my girlfriend and with myself. I really did find that this ultimately has been a good move.
Mm-hmm.
I can still be as creative as I want, right? I can still say, I'm cooking dinner tonight. And, the question is, well, what are you cooking? It's, what do you want? Because I can cook it, right? Like, I'm going to make it. If I don't know how to make it, I'm going to find a recipe and I'm going to do my damnedest to do it as best as I can for you.
Yeah.
Right. But it allows me to still be creative. It allows me to still go out and cook for the people that I love, and I can invite people like, hey, we're going to do a barbecue this weekend, and really get at it. And, as they say, you put your foot in it, right? You really just like, you go hard and you flex hard on what you're doing. And it's allowed me to enjoy it differently, and not have it be a chore and something that I'm doing for somebody else.
Yeah.
Which ultimately has been great. And, I have a conversation a lot with my girlfriend. Are you ever going to go back to the restaurant industry? Is that something you ever want to do? And I can't honestly say yes or no. Do I miss part of it? Yeah, absolutely. Do I miss the thrill of the last table going out on the weekend?
Mm-hmm.
And we had a night where nothing came back, nothing went out late. We had all sorts of compliments. The servers made their money, the bartenders made their money, and everybody was firing on all cylinders. Man, it's like coming out of battle, right? Like the last sword hits, and you look around and your comrades are all still there, and you're like, fuck yeah, we won. We did it. Like, we knocked it out. We get to go home. We're victorious. Like, drinks all around, and it's like, let it begin. Like, let's clean it up. We're going to have a beer while we're cleaning up. We're not going to tell anybody because we're not supposed to do that. But kind of one of those, it's just like, man, it's thrilling, right? And like I said, service industry people will understand that.
Yeah.
Right. It is a sense of satisfaction. Like, I am tired as hell. I got my ass kicked up one way and down the other, all up the street all night long. And I am dog tired, but God damn it, we did it. And we're still good to go for tomorrow. Right. And, you leave, everybody goes home, and you roll back in, and that same crew's there the next day. And it's just like, let's go. We got to get it. And it's just, I miss that. Right. That camaraderie, I do miss. And I do miss the creativity. And it's a lot easier to be creative with ingredients that you don't necessarily pay for out of your pocket.
It's expensive.
It's expensive, and if you're given the creative freedom as a chef to work with ingredients, granted, you have to be within reason. Food cost and all of those things are important, and making sure your labor's right and all that stuff. But being able to say, oh, I really want to run a special. Like, I saw something, or I thought of a dish that I used to eat. Like, let's make it. Like, make it, get it down right, teach the crew how to make it. Like, all right, cool. We're running this for the next week. We're gonna run a special, right? We're gonna do braised oxtails and collards and sweet potatoes and blah 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 blah, or we're going the complete opposite direction and we're doing something Asian, or whatever the case is. I do miss that. But at the same time, the time that I get now to sit on my ass, or to work on the house, or to spend with my girlfriend or my kids, or pet the dogs, or pursue a new hobby, I don't think I would trade it for it.
Okay.
So definitely catch-22 for sure.
It is, and I get that because so my whole life I was kind of on a pathway to go to the medical field. It wasn't a traditional pathway straight through med school. My mom wanted me to get my nursing degree, then go to get my master's in nutrition, and then go into med school. It was a way to make money while going through school, and as well to not just load up all the loans and everything like that. And so it was kind of like a one track mind for me growing up. And then when she passed away and I shifted away from it, um, just because it reminded me of her too much, it forced me into thinking about what made me, what I wanted to do. And so I bounced around from a couple industries, managing warehouses, construction, which I'm back to construction, which I do find, I think that's where I probably should have just stayed, completely full time. But, it, it, uh, it was hard because it truly understanding what I wanted to do and having to get over my hang up on the money part was difficult for me because my father was extremely okay. Money comes and goes. You can't control. You can control that, but like you can't control the ups and the lows of it, which because things just happen. You know, you get in a car accident, you get a medical bill, you get sick, someone else gets sick. You know, something breaks down that a washer, dryer, fridge. Those are all things that come up unexpectedly, and so money will be needed then, but may not be needed to go buy that nice pair of pants that you want. That something stupid, and so it was hard for me to get out of the mindset that my mom kind of put me in of, oh, money's so important, and to more of his side of it, which I always kind of had it because money came quickly to me when I was younger. And so it went quickly. And so, sitting back and thinking about like, hey, what's going to really make me happy? And it was kind of finding the medium between the two. I gave myself more time to pursue a hobby like this podcast, and it gave me more time to get back to church. Was the bartending thing, but then when I came into all that trouble with the whole leaving my cash bag on the machine and they toasted me for it, even though they recovered the money, it when I was going back in there, I felt that it just wasn't the fit for me anymore. And I'm glad that it happened, because it forces you into something that you think you're not going to be comfortable with, but you end up being more comfortable with. And it kind of sounds like you're of the same volition with your situation. And so it's good to find solace in your situation and be able to still have things that you find passionate, like that whole pumpkin French toast thing. That is so awesome, man. I can't wait to try that. And just something like Toddler Tuesday, that's such a good thing to do, like just to unplug yourself, not even speaking from like the how everyone else uses unplugged, but like to just take a step back and kind of get back to the true basics of everything. That simplicity will give you a point of solace and a point of equilibrium almost, and so it's good to hear those things, because to think of it and hear others say it is two different things, because you may think you'd be like, oh, I don't know if that's appropriate to do at my age, but no, it is appropriate. Go out and do it.
Here's the thing, we spend so much time growing up and being kids. And I know you remember, because anybody that's an adult pretty much can remember, I can't wait to grow up. I'm going to do what I want. Nobody's going to tell me what to do, right? I'm going to make my own rules, blah, 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 whatever, right? And then you become an adult, and you get to a point where you're like, I have to, because if I don't, I'm going to be in trouble. Like, well, what the hell is the point of wanting to grow up? Right? So if I'm going to have my own time, then damn it, I'm going to do the things that make me happy. And if that means I've got to completely unplug from the adult life for a day, you can't tell me at my age. No, at my age, I'm going to do what I want. Right? And I don't care what anybody else thinks. Because at the end of the day, I pay my own damn bills.
Mm-hmm.
You pay your bills, right? And if that means you want to put on onesie pajamas and watch Looney Tunes all day, then, bro, do it, man. Get at it. Like, and don't let anybody that shits on that, tell them to take a hike. I don't need that negativity in my life. I'm looking to grow myself positively, right? And if that means, like, I got to do some stuff that people are going to be like, well, that's dumb. Like, all right, cool. You enjoy your dumb stuff. I'm going to enjoy my dumb stuff. I don't have to agree with what you're doing. As long as you're not hurting anybody, hurting yourself, like, I don't have anything in, like, I don't have a dog in the fight.
Yep.
No, I would much rather do something as silly as a Toddler Tuesday and have everybody look at me like I am just completely out of my mind and not care because I just had the most relaxing day I've had in 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, life is too short. I've gotten to a point where if you're not going to add to my life in a positive fashion, you're not going to add to my life.
Yeah.
You will not subtract. And I don't care if you're friends for 30 years, family, like no. Like there's too much bullshit in the world right now that is trying to tear everyone down individually.
Mm-hmm.
That's men, that's women, that's everybody. Everybody's getting shit on by somebody else. I'm not going to allow it. I'm going to do what is best for my mental health, to keep myself happy, to keep my kids happy, keep the people that I love happy, and have those memories with them. Because life is such a blink. And people are like, oh, it's like you got 80 years. Like, no, you don't. You got 80 years, but 20 of those years are spent growing up. If you're lucky, you get out with 20 years of growing up, right? But I mean, I'm 37 now, and I'm still figuring stuff out.
Same.
Being a kid, I remember growing up and what's it going to be like in the year 2000? Oh, we're going to have flying cars. Like, no, we're not. I refuse to just be okay with just being okay.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm only going to get it once. I'm only going to get my opportunities once. So I'm going to take them, right? I'm going to go and do the stuff. I'm going to go do the thing. I'm going to go say hi to that person. I'm going to try that food. I'm going to take that trip. I need to still get all of my responsibilities taken care of. I need to make sure that things are still copacetic and I still have a roof over my head. But at the end of the day, man, like, I'm going to find joy in whatever it takes. If that means I'm coloring for 6 hours today, then damn it, we're coloring and we're drinking Capri Suns and eating cheese doodles. Like, it's just, it's life's too short to let somebody else steal your joy because they don't have their own.
100%. I always try to tell people, like, when they get upset about things, you have 100% capacity for the day. Do you really want to waste 1% on this? Don't do it. There's no.
I tell people about being upset about something that happened yesterday. Like, why? Well, it's bullshit. Yeah, hell yeah, it is. And you spent all day yesterday fuming about it. I'm like, you're gonna give half of today to yesterday? Like, what's the point?
That's a good one too.
No, like if I'm gonna give anything, I'm gonna give part of today to tomorrow, because tomorrow then's gonna be extra full. Like, it happened. You're pissed. Get over it and move forward. If you're gonna allow the past to dictate your now's gonna suck. Like, don't do that. There's no reason for it. Enjoy, find the joy, find the good, learn the lesson from something that happened that was shit and something that just made you mad as hell. And if it's a person, if it's a happenstance, an accident, whatever the case is, there's something to be learned from everything. Take that, store it away, learn from it, and then get rid of the rest of the crap. You don't need it.
Yeah.
Like, take what you need and move forward. I refuse to live in the past. I have made some stupid ass mistakes in my life.
Me too.
And I let them eat me up for years. Why? Right? Like, I don't need to punish myself. Right? There's no reason for it. I need to learn from it, and then I need to just continue to grow as a human. And if it turns me into a better human, then I'm doing it right. We all make mistakes. Beating yourself up about them isn't going to help. Right? Just own your shit and then learn from it and maybe pass on some of that wisdom to somebody else so they don't make this mistake. And if everybody did that, like, you don't need to go out and spend your whole paycheck on a stranger. And maybe you just need to compliment somebody on, like, hey, I like your nails. Like, dude, that's a dope hat. Like, hey, where'd you get those shoes? Right? Because they bought them. and they didn't buy them just because they liked them. You want to get compliments on things. You want to stand out. You want to not just be blended into the wall, right? So go out of your way to pay a quick compliment. Dude, what's 5 seconds? You spend more time than that sending a text.
Yeah.
Walk somebody at the store and tell them like, "Hey, I like your purse," and watch that lady who's like so nervous about people coming up to her and talking to her, like turn around with a smile and say thank you, and just say have a good day and walk on. She's gonna remember it all day, right? And it's little shit like that, man. Like if we just took the time to just do small things to make our day and other people's days better, everybody would be doing better. But we're all so self-centered and worried about what's going on that we just don't allow anybody to have the human experience. You're so worried about like, well, on social media, so and so's buying a house and they got a new car and a new job, and look, they just went here and their kids are so well adjusted. No, that kid still eats his boogers and draws on the wall, but you just don't see it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right? Like, stop comparing yourself to other people and just live your life.
That's a huge one.
It's just like, man, the mental health crisis, and I feel like it's fueled by social media, by this magical fake persona. Like, I have my life put together. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, we are so involved on the thing in our hand that we can't see what's going on around us. And now we're getting into conspiracy theories. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. They give you, like, the government, the people, the masses, are giving you these things, like, again, like chewing gum for your brain, because when it comes time for them to pull everything away, you're going to starve because you haven't eaten.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? Right? Like, can you get anywhere right now without GPS on your phone?
Pretty much not. I mean, there's some places, but nowhere extended.
You don't have anybody's phone number memorized anymore. Right? So when the satellite goes down and there's no GPS and you can't get a hold of anybody, guess what? You're in the dark. You don't have Google to tell you anything. You don't have a GPS to tell you where to go. You don't know how to hunt. You don't know how to fish. You don't know how to fend for yourself. You're shit out of luck.
Yeah.
Like, gotta wake up. I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom and, you know, the world crash is coming, but it's not far-fetched to think that something like that can happen.
People have gotten so used to stability right now, and that's the softening part.
It's so fragile.
Yeah.
People think it's stable, but it's not. It's like a game of Jenga, and we're like a couple blocks away from tipping over. You know, all it's going to take is for somebody to come over and slam the door really hard, and everything's going to come crumbling down.
Yeah.
And it's just, people are okay not knowing. The blissful ignorance is frightening.
It really is. You know, there's I think COVID exemplified it a little bit for some people and woke some people up to how fragile our supply lines are and everything. But with nothing being produced in America anymore, it puts us at a very fragile state, especially like a lot of medicines. Fortunately enough, anything on a crash cart is compounded in the United States, thankfully. But that's simply a monetary thing. That there's not enough money for big pharmaceutical companies to compound these things, and so they push it off to these smaller compound facilities that are in the United States, which is good because they're held to a more stringent stance and everything. But when basic medicines can't get produced here, like antibiotics and stuff, because of the profit margins, that's an issue. You know.
Yeah. Antibiotics, bandages.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. Like, when it all goes down, there's not enough to supply everybody.
No.
It's the well-connected who will have it, and they're not going to give it up.
And that's kind of why I want to do what I want to do. You know, I want to get land in Tennessee, and I want to build a church, a daycare, K-8, and a high school. You know, the church is the foundation of it, but I myself want to get my family more to rural living because I don't want to produce food for people. I want to produce food for myself. Like you know, I'll buy a calf a year, raise it, and then slaughter it. That will come down the line. But I've been until I had to transition my working situation. I was going to buy a cow at the beginning of last month. I'm going to try to. I think I still can. I'm going to buy like a half a cow and freeze it, but that's all in preparation to start. Pretty much providing myself with food with almost eliminating the supermarket. Even our vegetables, everything is monocrop. Sorry, this freaking coffee is giving me some burps here. But monocrop agriculture is so bad for us, and like all the poison we have to put on top of our food to prevent pesticides and stuff, and like the soil's all eroded so badly. It's a lot of our nutrition is very depleted. Like people don't realize as soon as the apple's picked, yeah, it may have everything you need at that picking point, but it all by a week you've lost over a third of it. And so it's like the closer food is to you, the better it is for you. And I think someone with your background can appreciate that even more. I think the one biggest objection to foreigners is they say they can come here and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, and they never feel full. And it's because our food is missing a lot of the nutrients that it has at picking, or it's missing it because we've bred so much, so many antimicrobial, antibacterial type of things into them that they unfortunately lose nutrients because of it.
Yep. And that's what causes all these food allergies.
Yeah.
And what it boils down to is, there's all of this pesticides and forever chemicals that are in the ground and in the water tables, and all of that stuff grows into the food. It's not going anywhere. Microplastics, they're not going to go anywhere. Not in a million lifetimes.
0.05% of our brain is microplastics now.
It's insane.
That's fucking scary.
Right? And so now what happens is your body ingests them and realizes, I cannot process this. So it treats it as an allergen, and it sends your body to fight it. Like when how old are you?
I'm 33.
Okay. When we were kids, what'd you have? Maybe a kid, 2 kids in your school allergic to peanut butter?
If that. Now, I honestly, I don't think I ever had one, to be honest.
Right. And now everybody's allergic to gluten.
Fucking everybody's
peanut. Right? Like, I can't have this. I can't have that. I can't have that. Well, if you look at what all of that is, it's all mass-produced, farmed ingredients. Wheat, corn, peanuts. Like, all of that stuff that has been sprayed and sprayed and sprayed and sprayed now has all these chemicals in it, and your body can't eat it anymore because it's afraid of the chemicals. So now we're now breeding, your body is breeding that into the biology. You have kids, now they have that allergen, and it's like it's just going to compound and compound and compound. And until like people literally will try to pull their heads out of their ass and realize like organic is a real thing, right? Like these chemicals are problems.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're not spraying anymore. No, right. They've changed the name and they've changed the label and they've changed the recipe, and it's going to be the same shit in 20 years.
Yeah.
If not worse. It's terrible, man. Like it's scary to think about. And the amount of time from the age of 8 to now, we'll say 7 to now, has been 20 years or 30 years. The amount of people with food allergens has gone through the roof. Like, I remember seeing the first like gluten-free option on a menu, and it was like a piece of cardboard. It was terrible, right? And now it's like, this is gluten-free, and this is gluten-free, and this is paraben-free, and this is BPA-free, and this is, this milk doesn't have this, and this cheese, and you have derived so far from the natural source and added and taken away and added and taken away so much, it is now just something to be consumed with next to no nutritional value.
Yeah.
It's just going to make diabetes and obesity and food allergens and all of these things just infinitely worse. And it's awful. I would love to be able to have my own farm, grow my own food, have my own meat. I know what they're eating. I know what we're eating.
Yeah.
And I'm good. At that point in time, everybody's so worried about their micros and their macros and all this and processed. And everybody loves to use the word processed.
Yeah.
I take a steak or a cow and I cut a steak off of that cow, that's processing.
Yeah. Processing
is as soon as it's cut, as soon as it's peeled, as soon as it's picked out of the ground, it has been processed. And it's like, oh, it's so over processed. Like, no, you just want to use the word over processed. Like, everybody likes to use that word.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, processed food. Like, your cheese is sliced. It's processed.
Yeah.
I don't care where it came from, right? The fact that it's cheese, it's processed. Your milk, is that homogenized? It's processed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, apples, yeah, they've been cleaned, they're processed.
Peptin on apples is a huge thing because it never washes away. They tell you to actually not eat the skin of apples anymore, which that's what holds all the nutrients. It's like, wait, what the fuck?
Right. Wild, man. Like,
it is. And like, I use the word process. I definitely overuse it, but when I think of process, I'm thinking of like cereals and like things like that. Cause like, that stuff, like there's some good in it, but I think it was over pushed as we grew up, that saying, oh, it's a healthy diet to eat a bowl of cereal in the morning. And trust me, I grew up on cereal. I love cereal. It's taken me a conscious effort to get away from it. But like there's
milk thing too. Remember the Got Milk campaigns? Like, got milk or beef, it's what's for dinner. Pork, it's the other white meat. Like, we had slogans growing up. Like, oh, you got this is part of a nutritious breakfast. Like 9 out of 10 moms agree. Like 9 out of 10 moms. Now I'm a parent. 9 out of 10 moms are holding on as hard as they can to try and keep things on. That's what parents do. Like 9 out of 10 moms don't know nutrition that way.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 dads don't either. 9 out of 10 doctors don't. They're doing whatever the drug companies, they're pushing whatever they pay them to push.
Yeah.
Right? And the people who do know are the ones that are getting silenced, right? Because they come out and they say something, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, no, you got flagged.
Yeah.
We're taking this.
You're hurting PepsiCo's stock funds here. Stop it.
Right, exactly. Exactly. You can't say anything. God forbid it takes money out of somebody else's pocket. Ooh, they're going to come at you hard. Yeah. Like these things, poison, right? But you heard when they first came out, everybody's like, oh, it's a great alternative to cigarettes. No, there's no good alternative to cigarettes. Not smoking is the good alternative to cigarettes. Yeah. Not vaping is the good alternative to vaping. Like, not putting that shit, but goddamn, it's addicting, right? And now they make them taste good, and it doesn't smell like a cigarette, so it's not so bad. No, it's still poison.
And there's so much sugar.
Right.
So much sugar in them.
Right. It's nuts. And it's in your lungs. It's not in your stomach. You're not digesting it. It's sitting in there. Right? And it's all shit, man. It's wild.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Something get a free pass. They came after vapes hard. Big tobacco came after the vapes hard. Right? Like here in Ohio, in Columbus, they came after flavored nicotine. So in the city of Columbus, you cannot buy menthol cigarettes. You cannot buy vapes. All you can get is full flavor or light cigarettes.
That's crazy.
Now, if you go to a tiny suburb of Columbus, right, over here, Reynoldsburg, go to Reynoldsburg, you can buy whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can get vapes, you can get menthol cigarettes, you can get flavored cigars, like blunt wraps for people who smoke. You can't get them in Columbus. You have to go outside of Columbus to get them. And it's like, okay, that's a start. But why full flavor cigarettes? Well, it's because Big Tobacco's got the money, and they're the ones that push the agenda.
Yep.
They're not selling as many menthols, so they don't care, right? But they got vapes out of the store. So these people who are like, I just need a nicotine fix. Fuck it, give me a pack of Marlboro Reds.
Yeah.
And it's just it's wild, man. It's all about the cash. It's all about the money flow.
It is. I went from using the vaporizer to these pouches, and granted, they still are bad for you. They're still nicotine does have a good effect. It helps your brain secrete acetylcholine, which is good for it. But the sugar in it and the fact that nicotine's addictive is not cool. But there are some benefits. But no, like I find this is the least of the worst demons. It's still bad because you're still getting sugar in an unnatural way. Unfortunately, sugar's in everything. I remember I turned around the barbecue sauce bottle. I was like, son of a blueberry biscuit. This thing has high fructose corn syrup in it. What the hell?
Everything
and then
does.
it got me even more mad. And this is me being stupid. When I turned around my kids' vitamins and saw the first ingredient in a vitamin is high fructose corn syrup.
Yep.
What the fuck is that? Like, you know what I mean? That's like the exact opposite of what you want from a vitamin. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So, like, yeah, you definitely got to be really conscientious about what we're consuming. One thing that you said that I was interested in is that you lived in Montana for a little bit. How was that? Like, how is the difference between that type of living and city living almost? I know you're not in the city, but you're pretty close to it to where you can still give a good perspective.
There is no place I've been that's like Montana. There are no people that I've lived around that are like the people in Montana. It is by far the most beautiful place I've been. And that's not to say just the scenery.
Yeah.
People out there are fantastic. You always hear like, oh, they'd give you the shirt off your back. They'll give you the shirt off your back. Just wonderfully nice people. Unfortunately, right now, Montana's kind of getting hit hard. That show Yellowstone came out.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what's happening.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people are buying up all the property, right? So, a normal house out there would go up for sale. It'd be on the market for a little bit. Somebody would buy it. Now it goes up for sale, and somebody from across the country who's never even seen the place is buying it up at 15% over asking price. Well, that drives the market up. And then the next one goes up for sale, and same thing. And next one goes up for sale, and same thing. Now the people that have lived there and made a life for themselves over the years can no longer afford to live there because these people are buying up all this property. And it's because they see these shows and they're like, oh, I want to try ranching. I want to do this. No, you're not going to do anything. You're going to have a really expensive RV outside your house, and you're going to let your property go to shit. And it sucks, man. It's getting watered down, chasing out a lot of good people. But I wouldn't have traded my time in Montana for anything, man. It's where I raised my kids. I grew a lot as an individual and as a husband and as a chef, and it was amazing. And the only reason I left was I just couldn't handle the winter anymore. Winter out there is rough. It's cold. It's real cold, and it's cold for a long time. And it just got to me. I grew up in Florida, right? Polar opposites, right? I just got where I couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't do the winter. I didn't want to. And not to say that we don't get winter here in Ohio, but it's not Montana winter.
Yeah.
But it's stunningly beautiful. And they have their own culture, man. I'll tell you, Montanans are a hardy breed of people. They love hard, they fight hard, they play hard. And it's a blast, man. I really enjoyed it out there.
Yeah. So I see those little thumbs up coming up. Are you live streaming on anything?
In here like this?
No. Like, oh, the bubble does it. Oh.
Do that.
Oh. That's pretty cool.
I think if you do like a I love you thing, it pops up with a heart. There's a couple different ones. I could do thumbs down too. I don't know. It's an Apple thing. There you go.
Oh, really? So it's from the
Yeah.
phone. Okay, that's pretty cool. I was wondering what the hell that was. Let's see. Oh, go a little higher, maybe. Oh, there it goes. That's pretty cool. That's interesting. I didn't know that. That's hilarious. So we're running on like 2 hours and 20 minutes. I gotta go get some food in me, man. All that talk about food the whole time. I ate right before too because I knew it would make me hungry, but I am still like starving now. I really enjoy. Go ahead.
12% on the phone. So
Okay, yeah, and I really enjoyed talking with you. I would love to do it again sometime in the future.
yeah.
So thank you for taking the time to sit and talk with me. I've learned so much. I'm definitely probably gonna reach out to you for some recipes. um, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more, maybe about one day doing a little cooking thing in the future. Maybe see if that's something you can enjoy because you'll still be able to cook with me. I'll be able to cook, and maybe we could put it out there. Maybe it can be a segue into something new for you. But again, you're Sam. You started off in the service industry. You have a true passion and love for it, and I hope everyone was able to see that today. So thank you, folks, for joining us for another episode of The Sound of Sosa. I look forward to seeing you next week, and thank you again for coming on. I hope you have a great rest of your day, man.
Thanks, you too, bud.